Hello. So today we're going to be discussing how to have a conversation that might be a little bit difficult, but we're not going to use emotions and we're just going to do it rationally. And this is also a call to action to do more of these type of talks instead of less. So my name is David Coleman. I was in debate for many years and did very well in that. I also, as a manager, have had to have a lot of these different conversations and to be able to navigate through them without offending somebody or things like that. So I'm going to use a personal story to point the relevancy throughout this speech. So the beginning of this story is the last State of the Union. My mom called me all in a tiff, saying really nasty, bad things about politicians, not discussing policy, not discussing an action, but using names that were vulgar and talking about them as human beings. So what we're going to do is use that as we go through. So as soon as you start this conversation, before you start listening, before you start rebuttal, anything like that, you want to know, what do I want out of this conversation? So a lot of times people just want to be right and to prove their point. You really shouldn't do that because most people, you're not going to change their minds, unfortunately. They're going to be stuck in their ways. So what you need to do is look at your relationship first. Is this a relationship that can have a difficult conversation and still be able to keep that relationship together? Also, you want to know, do I want to be right about this topic or do I want to be happy? Does this person actually want to engage in a back and forth, or do they just want to be heard because they have a legitimate complaint or not legitimate? So, as soon as you've established that, you can kind of move to the next step. So, the next step is you want to hear them out. So, let them talk. Often your mind starts racing as soon as you hear something that you disagree with and go, oh, I've got them on this point. And as soon as they finish that sentence, I got them. Don't ever do that. First off, you're not listening to what they're actually saying. So, in debate or a situation where it's going to be a lot of back and forth, you need to know the details. You need to understand what their gripe actually is. Is if you're just going, all right, I got them, you don't know what they're saying. And that's going to hurt the conversation in the long run. So you need to be actively listening. Pick up on not only what they're saying, but why they're saying it. What is bringing this out of them? Whether it's, hey, you didn't take out the trash today, and that becomes really toxic, uh, there's usually an underlying issue. So let them talk. Try to emphasize with them, even if you don't agree with it. So that'll be a couple different points that you'll get out of that. First, you'll be able to address why they're upset and actually go with that conversation instead of this rabbit hole of you didn't take out the trash and then you did this and then that and this and this and this. That doesn't. So the next step is emotions. So as like I said with my mom, it wasn't, you know what, this immigration, this inflation, this, it's this person is this. That doesn't do anybody any good. You never ever want to bring emotions into a situation like this. So do not engage in that behavior. So when someone starts name calling or wanting to talk about somebody's character, don't do that. You always circle back to what the issue is and try to discuss that rationally. If you start getting offended that this person starts calling you a name, then you start calling that person a name, no one wins and you're going to ruin that relationship. Nothing's going to be resolved. So the next thing you want to do is start with your rebuttal. So often a mistake is made in these conversations where there's a single point, then the emotions get taken to the next level, and then this rabbit hole starts happening. So at the end of it, you're not even discussing what you meant to discuss, and you're talking about something crazy that happened 10 years ago, and then now everyone's upset. So don't do that. Stick with the issue. If you can resolve it, that's what you need to do is, what is this core issue? So What you're doing is you want to have a back and forth, lively conversation and see if there's a middle ground where you both can kind of see the other person's right. So the outcome of this, unfortunately, you're not going to change people's minds most of the time. Even whether it's the trash issue or a work issue, especially politics and religion, you're not going to change their mind. But what you are going to do is you're going to understand that other person. Instead of going, hey, this guy's crazy. He gets mad about the simplest things. Instead, you're going to go, you know what? I understand where he's coming from. I may not agree with it, but I'm going to understand him as a human being. So you could be asking, why is this relevant? Because especially since it's such a broad topic, it's relevant for several different reasons. With the explosion of social media, people tend to get in these echo chambers and they shy away from having these difficult conversations with people that they disagree with. So you need to be able to get people out of these echo chambers because it creates this discourse amongst all of us that we get into these little groups, and then instead of it being your community, it's my team versus this team. This is also going to help you in your work. So you might have an issue with your boss or coworker or something like that. And this your job is usually tied to your mind. Not usually, it is. So that brings up a lot of emotions. If you're able to say, hey, this was wrong, this is the reason why, instead of being offended by it and then blowing up and possibly not having a job anymore, making a really bad work environment, instead of being able to lay out points, think rationally. This is also going to make you a better person. You don't want to be stuck in your ways. You do not grow when you do that. By listening to other people, you're able to grow as a human being. And ultimately, that's what we should all aspire to be, is better people that emphasize with your fellow man. So this is just a reminder, have these difficult conversations, whether it be your crazy aunt or uncle on Thanksgiving and that you don't want to go to now because they're going to go off about politics, or you feel slighted at work and you build that up to the point that it does you a disservice. Go out, have these talks. You'll thank me later.